death never bothered me. I've accepted they're sleeping, and if we want to see them again, then we got to make it to that second coming.
Knowing that Jesus is coming back for me not only makes me wake up every morning with that joy that he has given us, but it gives us hope for a better future.
If a kid believes that their father is abusive, it doesn't matter if he's bringing home dinner. The kids are going to be afraid of the father coming home. But if the kids know that their father is loving and caring, they don't care what the father is bringing home as long as he comes.
When somebody talks about Jesus, I think of him as my friend. I've had a really good parental unit. My parents love each other dearly, and so my dad really modeled what a good heavenly father would be, and my mom as well just put so much love into us. So for someone who doesn't have that picture of God, I do understand that it can be drastically different and life can be fearful. Having a personal relationship with God definitely came about through life experiences. When I lost my brother 30 years ago, he died suddenly. And of course, when you go through a family trauma like that, that shapes your reactions and your desires, and everything just is more centralized and focused. And so suddenly, I think that was a turning point in just our family dynamic too, that God is coming back again and we have hope. I am a fourth-generation Adventist. I did grow up in the church, attended Adventist schools all my life. My grandparents were missionaries to India, and so having that legacy and that a part of my story all my life, I think has impacted me more than anything. I've always known I wanted to be a teacher since my wonderful kindergarten teacher, and she inspired a great love for school, and I loved kids, so that has always been a part of my journey. So I just knew from the get-go, this is what I wanted to do with my life. I felt like I didn't have to go to the mission field. This is our mission field right here. So I carry that mantle of evangelism into the classroom, but more than that word, I just want kids to feel loved, and I want them to feel God's love. My Bible teachers throughout elementary, throughout high school, and throughout college explained the second coming in a very positive way. It wasn't, God's out to get you and the judgment and all of that. So having a different emphasis, I think, shaped my view. I felt very privileged that I had good Bible teachers. They didn't cram it down our throats, but they explained it really well. So for me, I'm here at my school, and I'm trying to live my calling day by day with my kids and my students. The fact that Jesus loves them, the fact that he's coming back soon for them. I don't try to complicate things too much, and maybe that's because I teach first grade, but I really just look forward to meeting my friend someday and having a conversation as a friend to friend would. So he gives me energy and strength, and it gives us hope for a better future. So even on the worst days, knowing that he's coming back is a motivator for me. And I really feel if people had more hope, then they would have more joy in their life. And so let's share that hope with everybody. I mean, that's kind of one of the foundation pieces of our religion and our existence, was we have this hope.
I had this thing growing up about, I was into photography, like darkroom, developing photos and stuff, and then multimedia stuff came up. But I had this thing where I was like the annoying person with a camera everywhere I went. I was taking photos of anyone and everyone, didn't care if they said yes or no. And my thing was, one day you're gonna need these photos at your funeral. I'm gonna have all the good shots. It was my own brother who that came true for. And his his funeral slideshow actually had some of the best photos of so many people and him himself. And losing my brother at that age and seeing my family and the community that we had come together, that was the first time I've ever experienced something like that. The first 48 hours, like, just completely demolished. I don't even know how we functioned or how we got through those first 48 hours, but the way people showed up, our families, our church, the city, the town we live in, just in Medford, that was God moving and helping and being there. Because there's just no way that I think humanly possible. Like, I don't know. It's just it was just so, people being there. I don't know how to describe that, but we needed that. I didn't even know I needed it at the time. But that was a healing process in itself with us. And people we just didn't even know, even years later. Even last month, I have people messaging me about things about my brother, and I'm like, it makes me happy to know that people still reach out and share those things with me when they come across it. We can't live our lives like hopeless. We know we're going to see them again. Like, we believe that, and I understand that. So to me, it was like, we grieve because we lost him and we miss them, and we're going to miss seeing them every day, but knowing that we're going to see them again, that just makes it like, that kind of ends that period of that type of grief for us. We're not going to be in that hopeless grieving stage forever. That's temporary. It's a relief to know that this isn't forever, that this turmoil, the suffering, the crises, like, this all has to end at some point. So knowing that the second coming is happening and it's coming, I want to make sure that I'm living and thriving in my purpose. But I feel like I'm also still learning and experiencing Jesus in new as my personal life evolves. Because who I was early high school and then 20s and now I'm in my 30s, it's a different experience for sure.
The whole nature of Adventism, all of our theology falls under the meta-narrative of the Great Controversy. And at the center of it all, the topic is, can God be trusted? What is God like? Is God loving? That's at the center of this entire Great Controversy. And often as Seventh-day Adventists, we say things like, when are we going to get to the deep stuff? When are we going to get to the meat of it all? And really, when we say this, we're talking about, like, when are we going to talk about prophecy? When are we going to talk about end times? When we don't recognize that the heart of the Great Controversy is the question, what is God like? This is the lie that has put humanity in the mess that we're in today. And when that question is fully answered, it changes how you approach the second coming. If a kid believes that their father is abusive, it doesn't matter if he's bringing home dinner. The kids are going to be afraid of the father coming home. But if the kids know that their father is loving and caring, they don't care what the father is bringing home as long as he comes. And then we're told in Revelation 20 that they reign together with Christ. What does it mean for his people to reign with him? Well, what does the king do? The king passes judgment. And I think that at the heart of much of Adventism, that the reason people fear the second coming is because there's a mistaken priorities of what it matters most. Is what matters most here that we got all the text right, that we got it all right, or is what matters most understanding the revelation of the character of God? This millennium begins where we are also passing judgment, but we're not passing judgment on each other. We're passing judgment on God. The God who judged us and all of humanity now invites us to judge him. And the reason that moment is so important is because in that, for 1,000 years, you're going to have victims there together with their abusers, standing together. And your question is going to be, what is this person doing here? And if that wouldn't be insult to injury, you're going to recognize that maybe your mom or your dad or your sister is not there whom you've loved. And if the second coming, you think that seeing Jesus is enough to make you be like, oh, I believe in God. But that moment when you're in eternity and you see your abuser there and not the person you love the most there, that would definitely make you question God's character and God's judgment and God's mercy. When we see all this reality happening around us, the question inside of our minds will be ringing, is God just? Is God loving? But for 1,000 years, we will see God's judgments. And at the end of that, no, God is just. And I believe that in that 1,000 years, we'll see deeper into God's judgments, into that story that God also judged. And in seeing God's judgments, we'll be able to look at those who hurt us with the same compassion that God saw them. And at the other end, not only is every question dispelled inside of our minds about the character of God, but also every piece inside of us of resentment will be ripped away. And not only will we be able to say Christ is Lord, but we will also say to our enemy, you're my brother. And that's why I think that a literal second coming is important, because it's the beginning of a healing, not only in a full trust of the character of God, but also in the restoration of enemies that prepares us to really stand in that place for the second resurrection and for God to make the new heavens and the new earth. Because where we're going to, where this whole story is ultimately heading, is that God is going to give us back the earth. Like if I gave you my car keys and you crash my car and then I fix it, I'm not going to give you the car keys back. But that's exactly what happens in the book of Revelation. God fixes the earth and he gives it back to us, And the only way that God can give us back the earth is if every question on the character of God has been answered, and if every person has been able to forgive the person that they're standing next to enter into eternity. Otherwise, we just have a heaven full of people like Jonah weeping under a tree, upset that God would dare to love someone that we hate. And that's why I think that a second coming, a literal second coming, is important, because a literal second coming demands the millennium that answers the questions of God's character and reconciles humanity with each other.
We have this song, the Adventist theme, that is so prevalent. We have this hope. It's a hope of being with Jesus. It's a hope of being reunited with those that we have lost. It's a hope of a perfect eternity where joy just permeates everything we do. I think early on in my life, maybe we focused a bit too much on the fear factor, the time of trouble. But as time has gone by in my life, the beauty of the Advent has become more and more prominent. Visiting the William Miller farm, standing there by Ascension Rock, and reflecting on those Adventists who had joy and hope, and that's all that mattered to them, was seeing Jesus. And I believe that as Seventh-day Adventist Christians, the closer we come to Jesus, the more focus that we have on His righteousness and the joy of knowing Him, because after all, throughout all of eternity, that will be our relationship, being with Jesus. Then the second coming brings joy, it brings anticipation, it brings the hope that solidifies who we are. And it goes back to our original concept of our first Adventists back in the William Miller days, looking forward to Jesus coming.